career in education for, this makes 31 years. I started out at Cartersville High, where I taught English and drama and psychology. And then I got my master's in counseling and went to Allatoona Elementary in Bartow County. Yep, so my parents lived in Cartersville when we got married, but now they're back in Calhoun. So Ackworth was in between the two families. So we moved here from East Cobb. We just really liked the lake. It had been, it'd been closed for a while and reopened, and all the redevelopment that was going on. And we needed a house that had a place for an in-law suite for Kevin's parents. So I feel like, this is where we are supposed to be. My daughter, Kristen, was in second grade. We were at High Meadows in Roswell. We lived in East Cobb at the time, and she just wasn't learning to read, and she just hit a wall where she wasn't going any further. And we found out that she's dyslexic, and so I had been taking her to tutoring and private school and resource classroom and vision therapy and occupational therapy. With dyslexia, there are a lot of things that go with it: the eye movements, the balance, riding a bike, bilateral coordination. So I had started studying the Wilson Reading Program, which is Orton Gillingham based, and had just gotten to the point where I felt confident working with her. I was adding up how much I was spending, and it was going to be $40,000 a year to educate my child back in 2003. My in-laws said, "Oh, we'll help." And I said, "Well, if you can loan me that amount one time, I think I can help a lot of children." And so they gave me a loan, and we were able to buy equipment and materials and hire teachers, and we started in a church. We rented space from them. We ended up with 18 students that first year, and so I hired a couple of teachers to help me out. They are all either dyslexic or they have some kind of language processing disorder, where there is auditory processing or just slow processing, but they all have a normal IQ. The part of the brain that has word recognition skills never turns on for a dyslexic student, but they can be taught a workaround. And so this has been shown with thermal photography, that part never lights up, but the neurons around it will light up as they are sounding out the words. So they may have to see it, 10,000 times to be able to really sound it out quickly. We ended up getting accredited as just a regular school. So we had looked into just accreditation as a homeschool group, but ended up getting accredited. So we had 3 teachers with master's degrees and experience, and so for 18 kids. So we got our accreditation that first year by November. Now we have just under 60. And so we bought property in 2007 and built our first Little Red Schoolhouse. And so we started out with about maybe 25, 28 kids when we were there. And just as we moved in, the economy collapsed. And so it was really tough, and I was really sweating it. But we were able to stay afloat and do well. And then in 2018, we added a second building to the campus because we couldn't fit everybody in the first building. We were having teachers who rotated from classroom to classroom when another teacher had planning time. Right. So we were overcrowded and needed that second building. We were trick-or-treating the first year that we were here. We moved in October, and so we went trick-or-treating with the neighborhood kids. And so one of the moms, Alicia Plumley, who's still on it, I was telling her how excited I was to actually be able to go up to the doors and look inside the houses and see the houses and yards and gardens or whatever, and that I was just really enjoying it. And so she said, "You should be on Historic Preservation Commission. We have an opening." So I was very excited to do that. So I think I started with historic preservation either end of 2004, beginning of 2005, and then 2009 is when I went over to, or 10 was when I went over to DDA. The storefronts on Main Street, some of them had lights on them, some didn't. The ones that did, they might be falling off or not working or whatever, and so we did have some money in our account, and that was probably our first big project after I became chair, was to replace all the lights that were on the storefronts. But the latest thing would be with the bonds, where we were able to build the pedestrian bridge, and then we were able to do the depot and the depot park and the roundabout and the little plaza to the right of Southside Drive where Cherokee and Southside meet. So a lot of wonderful things there. DDA and tourism and Ackworth Business Association were all kind of doing their own things, and there wasn't much coordination between the three. And so that's one thing that I've worked on, is bringing coordination. It wasn't difficult to get involved in Ackworth. You know, all you really have to show is dependability and a desire to get involved. I don't think where we would be where we are today without all of that. The city's really embraced us, and the city, not just employees or the civic part of it, but the members of the community have really embraced it. And there's a camaraderie. A lot of the people who live downtown also have businesses downtown. And it's kind of like we're in this together kind of attitude. And I was sitting with Annette Arnold, and she said, you know, I've seen so many people come to Ackworth and have their dreams come true.